Oh, we're doing
She already saw you. I'm like, Ruby. She's like, I saw it. I turned in the house. Oh, we become like best friends since then. Yeah, we're like buddies now. Totally buddies. Yeah, it's the neighborhood we want to say for Julia and Katie and Ruby and Ksenia, Kyla, especially those who don't have the brothers on.
Only if there's a seat.
No, there is.
Sorry if I'm
lead into it. All right, looks like there are a few more people straggling in, so another minute or so. Keep the conversation going. There we go. I think those are. Okay, well, welcome and thank you all for spending your evening with us here in Pacific Beach. As an example of the cooperative relationships we have here in Pacific Beach, this is a joint meeting between the Pacific Beach Town Council and the PB Planning Group. My name is Marcella Bothwell, and I am chair of the PB Planning Group. Some ground rules to keep. The planning group will be giving a very short presentation on the issues regarding the Turquoise Tower, and then their role, and together they form one community effort. The Pacific Beach Town Council is our community action forum. It's where residents, businesses, and civic leaders come together and raise issues and make sure the local voice is heard on a variety of topics, including police, fire, safety, and more. For instance, Paisan, the Police and Emergency Services Appreciation Night in September. So this is a plug to please sign up on the PB Town Council's website for Paisan. Please, if you're a current or former member of the PB Town Council, please stand to be recognized. Well, Brian Curry, you can stay standing up. The Pacific Beach Planning Group focuses specifically Neighbors for a Better California needed to be formed. We are fortunate that we could recruit members of the planning group with technical expertise to review the very technical details of this project. As an example, John Terrell, who you'll hear from in a minute, is a retired director of the development department in a city just outside of Riverside. NFABC, or Neighbors for a Better California, is focusing on raising money to dig into the legal and technical aspects required to advocate for our community, and ultimately, if it becomes necessary, side by side, these three organizations help Pacific Beach understand its growth, carefully review it, and respond in a thoughtful way. So with this brief introduction, I would like to introduce for you our next speaker, said John Terrell.
Yes, hello. I'm going to talk briefly about the Turquoise Tower and the environment review. 23-story, 139, or about 2/3, are luxury hotel, and there are 10 deed-restricted affordable units proposed. The project was submitted in late 2024. It was authorized, using as its authorization state legislation related to density bonus, which was updated effective 1st of January 2024. So this is a new and relatively untested legislation, but it expanded the amount of density. It's in its what they call a cycle. It's in its 6th cycle of staff review. Under state law, if a project qualifies, and there are some questions whether this even qualifies as ministerial. Ministerial means that the California Environmental Quality Act is not required or cannot be required. And it also also means it's a staff level review, and it must be what's called the specific project. So that's very important. This project, as I think you'll find out when the Congress Institute, is really pushing the envelope. Next slide, please. So, case, it does not. And the setbacks and other things in looking at a building. You look at the access, circular capacity, and the context, which means how does it relate to the existing development in that area. And then typically a project of this scale would have a series of public hearings at which the public can the technical health and safety. And that's what the city's been doing. They've been looking at, does it meet the building code, the fire code? Again, in this case, the first concession was to exceed the 30-foot height limit for the local coastal zone. The second was to exceed the 60-foot height limit for the zone on its proposed boulevard. And was they are necessary to support, in this case, 10 designated affordable units. So, in conclusion, this project really raises the question of what is a reasonable expectation when the public generally wants more affordable housing to be provided in the community. What is a reasonable bargain? And this raises, and I think more important, the density bonus originally was intended to provide smaller units, smaller market rate units that would be more affordable by design. They'd be smaller units are less than. In this case, we will talk about the future.
Thank you very much, John. All right. I think you guys can hear me now. When we have this conversation about housing and the Turquoise Tower, one of the most important things to establish residents. So the question is not whether we need housing, but rather what kind of housing do we need? We envision housing that people can realistically access and afford. Housing for hardworking San Diegans to plant roots. Housing for young couples to be able to raise a family. And housing for our seniors to be able to retire with dignity. We can achieve that by building missing middle housing and creating pathways for affordable home ownership. Together, we can make space for everyday people, but not for those who just want a luxury house. But we want that growth matched with infrastructure and public safety from our neighborhood infrastructure. Streamlining permits is good for everyone, but subsidizing luxury developers at the expense of our public sewer and water lines is bad for everyone that catch the mistakes that the city often misses. Streamlining permitting and slashing bureaucracy is possible without kicking community groups from the table. And ultimately, we want communities that work for newcomers and current residents alike. We can have high-quality neighborhoods that are affordable, have good infrastructure, that are safer, and that are shaped by the community itself, that work for everyone, but only when we're planning for everyday San Diegans.
I want to start by asking, there's a guy named Tom who wrote me a really mean letter. Is he here? Tom? Okay, so Tom, I want to thank you. He wrote a letter to me saying he didn't vote for me because of this. And I said, okay, I mean, usually we talk about federal issues, Iran war, tariffs, whatever it is. But I got the message from you, Tom, that I needed to pay attention to something that was going on right here. And in fact, what I've heard is that, and I've learned to recognize this over some years in elected office, is you know when a community is pissed off. Okay? And when I go to the Starbucks and someone talks to me not about Trump, but they talk to me about the Turquoise Tower. When I, just anywhere you're around, like I had a flight attendant, thank you for my letter, on United Airlines. So I just want to say, I heard you, Tom. You may not vote for me this time, but I do two things, and it's hard to do them both. One is we have to build enough housing for our workers, for our students, for our children, and for the homeless, right? And two is we have to do it in a way that's a credit to our neighborhood, not a detriment to our neighborhoods. This is a city of neighborhoods. You ask someone around here where they live, they usually don't say San Diego, they say Pacific Beach, they say Ocean Beach, they say Pensacola, right? It's a city of neighborhoods. It's a small town and a big town. And that's what's magic about this. It's something that we have to preserve, and we have every right to preserve. And this project doesn't meet our standards. Okay? It is, as you can tell, the gymnastics that they've gone through to call these hotel rooms residences. The meager amount of affordable housing units. It's about building views, and it's about building a 20 strip. Now, 60 feet would be a lot for this community anyway. But that would be 6 stories, not 22 stories. There's been some mistakes on the city part. But I do think that that this is worth something that would be terrible. The height limit came in the 1970s because of a couple of really ugly tall buildings. Things that stuck out. And I love Miami. I'd like to visit Miami. I don't want to be Miami. Around the same time, the Coastal Commission was formed to protect the coastline from this kind of ugliness. But we treasure our coast, right? And since the 1970s, I served on the Coastal Commission when I was a member of the City Council. It would be very, very difficult to propose something like this to the Coastal Commission at that time without being laughed out of the room. It's just not consistent with. You may remember, if you were around 20 years ago, that La Jolla Boulevard used to be a 6-lane highway. Door to get out, that some car would have passed it. 2000. I ran because I wanted Petco Park getting built, I wanted sewer spills to stop, and I wanted a complete infrastructure like Highway 56 that would go all the way through. Remember that? I thought that was done. But when I knocked on doors in La Jolla, I heard about 3 things: underground the power lines. I'll do something about the seals. I'm sorry, I heard about that. And from Bird Rock, I heard, can you fix the way Boulevard? What can you do to fix the way Boulevard? These people are saying, this is not what we want to make it better. So I said, yeah, we'll do that. And I took office, and in April, after I took office, I convened 3 nights, Bird Rock nights, at the Masonic Temple over there. I had about 50 people each night. We talked about finance, we talked about architecture, we talked about traffic. And we came up with a plan to do traffic lights and diagonal parking, which was, he recognized we had something like this going on. You've got to go to the community and talk about it. So I said something like this going on. You've got to go to the community and talk about it. So I said, okay, August 1st, 2001. People I had seen at the door said, fix the light boulevard, and they just yelled at me. This is my moment of political genius. I just a law career to do this. I was pretty good at it, I thought. And I said, you know what, we're not going to do nothing. We're going to figure this out. What we did was we convened a conversation with a consultant that I had met, a walkability guy named Dan Burton. He was a hippie. He came out and did a walking tour with folks. With this like neon vest. Took him because I knew they'd all be looking at me. Thinking what I wonder what I thought. Because that it also took community leadership and community participation. Imagine in a different world if we had a conversation. In Pacific Beach about what you wanted, not about what you didn't want. And wouldn't that be refreshing? But then imagine if the city came to you and said, we'd like to update your community plan. You say, I'm good, right? Not the city. But that's what has to happen here. And I think under any standard, I believe we can add housing in a way that credits a neighborhood. I think neighborhoods should expect that. I think neighborhoods should demand that, and that your input.
I'm gonna have Charlie start off with the first one.
So one of the first questions submitted to us from the audience at a time was, you said that the turquoise towers are you willing to take publicly or in working with state and local officials to prevent projects like this from becoming the norm? So first of all, I
think I did tell Marcella it's not good manners for a federal official to weigh in on a city thing. I think I've done that. I thought the letter was strong. I hope you thought so too. I think being on record is the first thing we can do, and I try to do that. The second thing is I think we should think about how we want to get where we want to get. And I do, look, here's the situation. I think that young people feel, I think that's how they feel. And I bought my first house when I was 29. A family or general election. And I think we owe it to folks to make sure that we give them a shot. And that's harder because it's also communities. How we can put people in here in a way that makes sense and keeps our community beautiful. And so I think that's one thing I would be wanting to facilitate part of.
If we've already gotten a response from the Coastal Commission that they don't feel it's in our jurisdiction. So if you could put a louder,
hear you.
Coastal Commission is respondents on their jurisdiction. The density bonus.
Question number 2. Turquoise Tower proposes 139 visitor accommodations and only 74 homes. Yet it's using the housing laws to gain more density. That's the density bonus law.
Those fixes came out. So I don't think we're going to see the same thing. I hope that this will induce the city to really think hard about what's happening in that organization to make sure that we don't set up people to be able to use these state laws because we make that.
State housing laws be able to override them to increase housing production?
Well, I'm a federal lawmaker, and so in this case, I'm just a voter. I don't have any jurisdiction on this at the federal level. I think that the Coastal Commission is there for a reason. I think that these laws are there for a reason. But that was a 50-year-old law, and I just don't think we should expect that things are going to stay the same. This particular proposal brings up the same concern that existed, but I don't think it can be approved unless there's sewer and water. I don't think that's going to be an issue for this project. I am concerned particularly about fire safety with this project because of the narrowness of turquoise and the height. So I think that's a legitimate thing, and we should probably consider. We should definitely consider that. We should be building something outside.
Okay, next question. Proposition 45 would speed up environmental review for housing, transportation, water, health, and clean energy projects. You supported CEQA reform and faster approvals. Where do you think streamlining goes too far, and what environmental protection
proposed project, when a community would, that's fair. But I think we should have really clear rules about what can be done. I don't think those two things are inconsistent. Give me an answer, yes or no. Give me an answer, yes or no, and give it to me fast. I think that's fair. No, and give it to me fast. I think that's fair. It doesn't affect the quality of the environmental decision.
You've argued that building more housing will bring down costs. What evidence shows that strategy is working? And if rents and home prices remain unaffordable as density increases,
like it or not, I can't speak for all of it, but you're seeing that, in other words, they're giving a free month, right? That's an 8% discount over the year. They're giving free garage space. So I don't think there's any question that apartment the building of apartments, supply has reduced houses. Of apartments, supply has reduced houses. And that's just, I don't think there's really a lot of doubt about that. Again, I think how we build it, where we build it. 95, think of all the things that have changed since 1995. 95, think of all the things that have changed since 1995. Rideshare, that changes where people travel. You work from home. You work from home. Those patterns have all changed. And like I wish for you that we could have that conversation about not what you don't want, but what you do want. And thinking about ways, like Charlie said, to figure out where the housing should go. And plan already, as it exists, envisions it going up and down Grand. And think about updating that. I think if you wanted control over it, don't just play defense. Don't just say what you don't want. But if you submitted that to a council member, you would find you're the leaders. To get that. How these housing bonuses are deployed. So you ask how to do it, I think take it over. Some of it is deregulating is go faster as long as the standards are not lower. And I think from the federal government level, I think getting rid of red tape is something that's been part of the mind, whether it's for housing regulation, energy development, infrastructure, whatever.
Okay, we're rushing into our...
And time is money, so that the delay that is built into things makes things cost more, so they may go faster. Whatever you end up with is cheap. One of the things we did in our federal bill is we restricted the corporate. That's a little bit of a concern. We did restrict in our federal bill, we were able to use housing as a way to build savings. And if big entities and private equity is taking that, it deprives people from that kind of wealth opportunity. I think that's wrong. So I am concerned about that. I do believe we need a mix of housing. One of the things I would say about California, and this is a particular thing in California, is they're not building condos. It's all apartments. And apartments are important, but giving people the opportunity to own something, I think, is also important. And what we don't have here is condos because of the litigation around condominium projects. And so people just don't build them because of the risk of litigation, construction defect litigation. There are some proposals in Sacramento that are good, that would reform that and make condos easier to build, because I think that should be part of the list. As far as single-family homes, it's tough to do more single-family homes here because there's pretty well single-family homes that go. I think one thing that we do in California that's different because of Prop 13 and because of capital gains tax is we incentivize older people to stay in their homes. So I would like the state to figure out a way to do that. And here's why, too. I think to keep a healthy city, is we have to look at school population. School population is going to be under pressure. So for me, in San Diego, it's not so much about more single-family homes. It's how can we get, on the federal side, we need to make ability to fund community projects. We're not supposed to call them earmarks. But I do think a lot of us feel like we know how to spend money in our districts better than the city asks us for it. So as long as the city is willing to ask for that money, we can come up with a grant. And these are not huge grants, but in the range of $500,000 to $2 million. There's probably a good one. $2 million. There's probably a good one. $1 billion. $1 billion project. $1 billion project. I think it's ambitious. I think it's ambitious. Twice. Pacific Beach project. Twice. Pacific Beach project they voted 55. Almost twice. Pacific Beach project they voted almost 55% yes in 2022. I think they think it's appropriate to redevelop that site. I think it's for town, not in that place. I will say that we're going to have to figure out a way to protect the airport from sea level rise. I would say one other place where it's important is that train. It ticks me off. The second busiest Amtrak corridor after Boston to Washington, you may not know, is our own Surfliner from San Diego to LA. I have to say, the concept of high-speed rail is, I suppose, wonderful, but it's really going slow. After 2008, the environmental review is not even done. This is another process issue. The environmental review is not even done for this thing we were promised. I don't need very much of that money to get a straight shot 2-hour ride from San Diego to LA. It's away from the bluff. And I think that would make a lot of sense to you. So I would say I have felt this issue myself when my had a house up on Soledad. Neighbor rented their place out for, it's 1 o'clock in the morning and you can get to sleep. And there's all this, that, you know, your home should be the place where you're protected. And I really appreciate the next one of these things. First of all, I know that they negotiated a deal. I think one of the things I would prioritize at the city is enforcement. The coastal communities made a compromise. A lot of people want to be a lot more aggressive than this. I certainly felt that way when these people were next to me. But at least we should demand that there's enforcement, and then when these things are going on too late, that they really shut down. I think that should be a priority.
Okay, this next one is interesting. I believe the 23 stories is a red herring, and local government can hike down to 10, 15 stories, etc. What height do you feel is acceptable if a compromise?
Okay, 30 is not a compromise, okay? I've said, you know, what I said in that letter was, there's no way that the density bonus were appropriately applied, and I don't think that's a real compromise. 19 stories, doesn't it?
Supports overriding local zoning laws.
SB 79 is the law that would upzone around transit, okay? Not around the 30 bus, all right? I checked on that before to move people. We all, in 2004, the county passed the, and by the time I was up small areas around that investment, I think it makes a lot of sense.
When was the last time you rode the trolley?
What's that?
When was the last time you rode the trolley?
Or the bus.
I rode the trolley 3 months
With
ago.
your kids late at night?
But more people on the trolley makes it safer.
We're not going.
Okay, I want to still maintain a sense. Okay, I want to still maintain a sense of decorum here. We're going to stick to the questions that are being asked. Speaking of which, we are hitting our. We're going to stick to the questions that are being asked. Speaking of which, we are hitting our 10-minute mark right now. 10-minute mark right now. So if you do have questions that you're waiting to be asked, please. Legislation is misguided. It overrides local housing and land use policy. So if that's the case, the updated community plan when those policies will probably be overridden.
That's a great question. I think that as part of your updated community plan, you said assurance up front that it will be observed. Okay? Now that means you're going to have to provide the kind of housing that Charlie talked about that fits and makes your community as a Christian. I believe when they come here to update your community plan, I would say no thank you to. I should have an assurance that if you go through that work and that hard work, you and love to help in any way.
There's no infrastructure to support it.
Mostly, I think people are talking about transportation. Right? I'm not sure what the infrastructure. I think what is it? Traffic is transportation. Evacuation routes, I think that's important. There are places where that's a real issue.
The city of San Diego uses often to try to lower the barriers to housing is to waive development impact fees. But the cost of that is that upgrades, and maybe the project itself will have its own sewer stuff, but the nearby area won't have any
This for you is also. First, I have one more good news thing, just that happy month, and I'll close on the main topic. We're renaming the post office after Pacific. We're renaming the post office after Pacific Beach icon. I think everything that happens here, you deserve to have the accredited. I think everything that happens here, you deserve to have the accredited in this community. You can't stop change, own it, manage it. Can't stop change, own it, manage it. And if I can, what we mean when we talk about community, what we mean when we talk about community power, even when we talk about is one of the most dense places in the world.
Tonight, we're asking for a $20 donation. You don't have to have cash tonight. You can go on the website. You can just sign your name up. We're on the honor system. But can we grab one? And actually, we'd love to give you one. Yeah. Here we go. You next one. Litigation. It's also for our technical studies as well. So please.
Thank you again for coming out tonight. You can do us a huge favor by helping us break down the chairs. You can put them back in the front room.
Karen, are you going to give her the picture?
Yeah, she said that.
Doing well, man. Friday night, but David asked if you wanted to join or bring a conversation and something going on. Today, I'm joining
There you go. I don't want her to get too far. Just by the things that don't lead us. Say that you could change their mind when they've benefited from the project. It's very disappointing. It's unfortunate.
Yeah, I'm down. I was actually more impressed with these questions. I was expecting a little more Parks and Rec situation. But I don't know if you saw my last section. It's like, we're talking about transit, right? No! Fire! I'm sorry. That's
always coming hot.
That's always the big marking is transit, buses, whatever. It's all transit. You do what? I like his watch. I'm trying to figure out I don't know about the city. Probably. That's what I was going to write. I ran over to jot it down in my card real quick. He asked
an email. I love it. Right to Allie Apple. Allie? I'm not just throwing it out.
Here's my business card and everything.
No, I wish it was here.
Thanks for coming out tonight. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Well done. Also, I could ask you, what watch were you rocking? Trying to figure it out.
This is a Not that expensive. My son bought it for me.
Okay.
It's pretty cool. It's Ming.
Ming. Wait, they're sick.
Yeah.
It's a very.
I gotta tell my son I got a sick watch.
It's a badass watch.
From
It's a badass
Pacific
watch
Beach.
for sure. All right, thank you.
I'm San Diego.
Okay, sure, yeah.
You're a founding member of the UVM.
Yeah.
Is there a moment when you look at this process? Are you thinking?
There are a lot of young people in here too.
Yeah?
I thought, if you look. So I
I
don't.
think I personally
Yeah.
thought I only saw like 5.
No, I think. Look, I think these are the homeowners trying to protect their neighborhood.
Yes.
I'm not surprised at the demographic.
Yes.
I think I wanted to say to them that young people feel like we're pulling up. Okay, take care. Like we're pulling up the ladder behind us, and they need to understand that because that means things are going to be different. Yeah. So they someone wrote an article about this. Who's at Los Angelino wrote an article about this project in the UT. And said this is just what the Pacific Beach needs. I don't think so. If it's about building more units, you could do that in a way that fits with the community. And I think we owe the community that. So sometimes I think the YIMBYs, who are an important political movement that I support, we're going to have to figure out how to work with communities in a way that's better. And I don't think we want the coast to look like Miami.
I mean, City Hall issues obviously broke the community. How do you feel like San Diego needs to be going forward if we're going to have that mandated
We've got to do better. I think one thing we have to be in conversation with hotel rooms and views and a rooftop deck. That's what's.
So you talked about the Bird Rock experience. I was going to ask about that. Do you think, articulate that a bit more? How that in particular would translate?
So I think what Charlie said is that you want to build housing that matches the neighborhood, that you credit to the neighborhood, and that's what we did at Bird Rock. We did it partly because I said we had to change, but also I engaged the neighbors, and they really provided their own leadership. And that's what has to happen here. That dynamic is not happening here yet. These people are ready, I think, to have that conversation, but they haven't been invited.
On what level? What level should they be invited?
They should be invited to update their community plan with some assurances that if they do work on it, they'll be respected. And they have to do the work of providing more housing. So that's the thing. You've got to do two things, like I said. You've got to provide more housing. You've got to do it in a way that's a credit to our city. So we should all accept it.
How did you vote for that on the NDAA?
Voted no on it.
Okay, great.
So they fix it.
And what do you think they should fix?
There's a lot of hate speech in there about
What about the merger with the U.S. and the Israeli militaries? Are you in support of that?
Was there a vote on that?
Not a separate one because it wasn't allowed to come to
There's been a long-standing partnership with Israel, and Israel for parts of that on the Iron Dome.
Would you admit that Israel has devastated Palestine? Aid Gaza, thank you for doing that. However, wait. Until they stop killing children. Every day they kill children, right?
Excuse me, Mr. Chief.
Yeah.
Excuse me. You said you would answer a couple of my questions.
What's your question?
Well, I mean, I gotta
go. What's your
you
question?
have to go, so you don't have time.
What's your question?
Well, I don't want to be rushed, so it's okay if you don't have time. Then that just shows that you don't care about the community. You didn't want to. I asked you prior, and you didn't even want to answer any of my questions, which I didn't even ask.
And look where he's parked.
I know.
Rules for thee and not for me.
But like, how much is that? I was like, hey. Like, you're too busy?
Hey, full moon right there.
Right above it. It's cool.
Full moon energy.
Right. You know, you're too busy for the people. That's why you come for an hour, and then you leave. For an hour, and then you leave. That's good. It just shows the people. Like, I mean, if you can't even go to the city and talk to them about, you know, all these things you're telling the people to, but you're the guys that make legislation. You know what I mean? And it's like, so I just find it interesting we had to like rush after him. I was patiently waiting.
Yeah. What newspaper are you with?
It's San Diego Live Data. I just do local San Diego.
Good for you.
And I just find it interesting that he didn't. I waited patiently. I said, "Can I ask you a couple of questions?" I was letting him talk to people, and then he's rushing out, and then he's like, "Oh, hey, what do you want to know?" And it's like, I mean, I'm not going
Did he give
to.
you a chance to?
Like barely, but I said I don't want to. Like you're just basically brushing me off. I don't want to. So he's like, "Okay." So that's why I'm here. Well, I'm just showing it. You know what I mean? I'm live right now, so people can see that these are what politicians do when, you know, you come for an hour and this is something very serious to the people. And what is he going to go to the city to talk to the city council? Probably not, right? But he's telling everybody else to do that. And it's like, I mean, they work for us, but they don't. So it's upsetting to me that, but it's important for people to see that. You know what I mean? So
Good for you. Thank you.
yes, well, God bless you.
God bless you.
Yes.
That was a Where were the city council?
Right. Well, you guys, you know, as always, politicians love to run and hide when, you know, and it's like he doesn't even have any like history of me to go, you know, I don't want to answer any of her questions as part of it too, you know. It's like he's just kind of leaving. I mean, I'm not in his face, but it's like I'm right by him. He said that he would answer questions, and then as soon as it came down to it, it was like kind of like this brush off. And it's like, I don't need to be rushed into asking you, you know, things that are extremely important to the community. If you can't spend more than an hour of your time with your community and you claim to represent them, it's just very disturbing. But these are things that people need to see, and so I'm glad to be able to, you know, provide that to the people because it's just sad. You know, just sad. Anyway, you guys, God bless. Severo Dome in San Diego. Stay tuned because there's always something coming next. So, you know, this turquoise midway, all this stuff.